So let us see quickly another strategy to convert a community into super followers. Get them involved. There are a few TV shows that stand out above the rest of the level of cult like fandom. They inspire Star Trek, which we talked about earlier. With its devoted Trek is one of them. Is one of them. Another is Doctor Who, the British science fiction show about a human looking alien who explores the universe in a time traveling spaceship called the TARDIS. After the original run from 1963 to 1989, the show was rebooted in 2005 and has been going strong since. Several decades and nearly 900 episodes in Doctor Who is one of the most beloved shows of all time. In the span of its existence, the Doctor has been played by 13 different actors. A big part of the show's charm and identity is wrapped up in the many phases of its title character. And the speculation and excitement among the fan base whenever it's time for the current Doctor to hand over the reins. So it's hard to think of a more perfect fit as the lead actor in a TV show than someone who grew up living and breathing that show. And in a similar way, it's hard to think of a better fit for the people who contribute regularly to your team than those who live and breathe your brand. In part 2, we talked about ways you can get your community members involved in your brand by giving them even a little bit of say a little bit of more likely to support you and your business because they have invested their time, thought and energy into it. Getting your community directly involved in your brand is a powerful strategy, and yes, these powers can be used both for good and for evil. We will go over the traps that you could fall into while building a tribe of super fan followers in the last part of the book. But for now, let's take the idea of community involvement to the next level and talk about how to convert more those followers into super followers by getting them super involved as part of your team. Not too long ago, for example, some of the most active and helpful members of my Facebook group community administrator. One of those people, maybe you are feeling inspired by this exam and you want to know how to get started making your first hire or finding your first volunteer from your connected community. I will start by telling you what not to do. You don't want to put a general call out saying, "Hey, who would like to be my community leader?" You are going to get a bunch of responses from people who are interested in the job for a number of different reasons. Instead, you want the process to be more organic and contained. Over time, you will naturally start to see people lift themselves up in the community. The ones who contribute a lot and are really excited to be part of the group. And these people, the ones who self select for a biggest role, are the ones you should reach out to. If you don't think you are ready to bring your followers on a regular volunteers or employers, a great opportunity to get your connected community more directly involved is enlisting them to volunteer for events, giving them in your audience the ability to influence the flow and the experience of your event can be an incredible way to bring out their inner super follower. When you make an intentional decision to cultivate your connected community into a legion of super followers, giving people the honor and responsibility of serving as a member of your team and steward of a community will seem like a natural step. It's really a wonderful thing when your fans become integral member of your team. This next and final story shows just what super followers can create and the raving community of their own they can foster. When you use your influence, authority, and resources to lift them up and give them access to opportunities they would not otherwise have. In the span of few years, a small fan podcast turned into a huge successful annual series of international events, all because a couple of influential people behind the Walking Dead brand and were willing to empower those fans with the access they needed to create something magical. You can hear the full story of how Eric and James started their podcast and created the WalkerCon in my convo. So, so let us do some exercise for this. Find opportunities to get your fans involved in your brand. Step number one: don't worry. This doesn't have to include making a hire if you are not ready for that move. But think about all the places where you interact with your audience and see if there are opportunities to get your most active users more involved. Do you have a Facebook group, and could you get your fans to volunteer as community moderators? Or on Instagram, could you fans volunteer to help curate some user generated content for your feed? Has your brand been more successful in the real life space versus the online space with meetups? And could you recruit fans to become chapter host for your brand in their local city? So this is a step number one. Step number two, however you decide, make this opportunity available. Decide on how you want to recruit. Will there be an application and can anyone apply, or will it be invitation only and you hand pick people based on how you see them engage online? Step number 3, start recruiting and delegating to your active users. You can establish guidelines and systems, but once you have followed on volunteers have things going, let them run with it and see where they take it. Always encourage them to come back to you with ideas for how things could be done better or feedback that they hear from the wider community. You are slowly creating an army of followers who can be your eyes and ears, extending your reach beyond where you can go on your own. That's all. You can do this exercise for this strategy called get them involved.